road today in the 2022 Toyota GR Supra with one very specific question. Having recently reviewed the 2022 BMW M240i xDrive, which shares this 3-liter Supra's B58 twin-scroll turbocharged engine, I was wondering what room that excellent tourer really left for a vehicle like the Supra. It seemed hard to beat, and I couldn't quite figure out where this car should fit. The Supra, of course, is a storied name, particularly among fans of Japanese imports. And after a long hiatus, this new generation has met a lot of controversy. After Toyota acknowledged a few years back that it would take them a full decade to develop a new 5th-gen Supra, they turned to BMW. Rather like the arrangement with Subaru, which brought the development of the FRZ86, whatever it is now, the BMW deal saw the new Z4 turned into a new Toyota product. Leaving the Z4 for BMW's Roadster niche, the Supra filled the role of a performance coupe, just reconfigured a little bit to differentiate it. The Toyota purists, and particularly those two JZ mouth breathers, could not accept that a BMW Supra would be anything true to the spirit of what they were after. And while my heart is always going to be with the classics, I never felt any particular passion for the Supra. And so coming into this, I told myself that I wasn't just going to harp on it being a BMW. But climbing in for the first time, I was pretty floored by just how BMW this vehicle is. Open the door, the first thing you see are the light switches, straight out of the M240i or Z4. Door handles, same deal. It's even using BMW's iDrive infotainment. Link up for CarPlay, your phone asks you to install BMW Group Infotainment Support app. It does have a different and indeed really excellent digital cluster, but by and large, this is straight BMW. And when you hit the starter button, that exhaust note, you got it. This isn't a bad thing. BMW builds some great stuff, and I loved the M240i. But if you can get yourself over all of the Fast and Furious obsessed hand-wringing, I think a lot of people will be quite stunned by just how excellent this thing is. It's no softcore ride. That 3-liter twin-scroll puts out 382 horsepower and 368 pound-feet of torque. That gets you going in around 4 seconds, and throw in that soundtrack and it feels a fair bit quicker. Those BMW benefits don't stop there. The active chassis gives you a stiff but surprisingly comfortable ride around town, but tightens it up on the track. You've got hollow strut braces up front, and near perfect 50-50 weight distribution. Of course, the most immediate difference between these two G platform cars is the wheelbase. Where I enthused about the M240i falling right up close to the old E46's wheelbase, this thing's 20-some centimeters shorter. Though it trades some cruising smoothness and stability, it yields much tighter handling and a much sharper overall driving experience. Now, for all the fun of that handling, this abbreviated coupe experience does come with some trade-offs. The most notable of these, visibility, is iffy here. Looking forward, the A-pillars feel like they are right here, which makes them a lot bigger in your peripheral vision, and does sort of obscure important things like pedestrians, cyclists, you know. Looking back as well, those C-pillars are thick. It looks great from the outside, but this cockpit is definitely tailored toward looking forward toward your next apex, rather than around the bend for your next crosswalk. Compounding this, the unique proportions of the vehicle, in particular its really broad hips, make it a little bit funny to park. It's doable and it's fine, and you've got 360-degree parking sensors, albeit no 360 camera. But for every little oddity here, there is a lot to enjoy! It becomes a little frustrating, however, when you reframe it with the perspective of that M240i. See, the M240i handles well, accelerates well, feels great, smooth, incredibly quiet. It's a fabulous partner-friendly tourer. The Supra, on the other hand, is something of a niche product. It's a name that's been dormant for a long time, and outside of enthusiast circles doesn't necessarily carry the capital that even something like the Z4 does. And by upsetting the fans as they have, Toyota has sort of alienated its target market. But at that point, you're looking at a $70,000 sports car with a Toyota badge on the front. Well, that shouldn't matter, and from behind the wheel, believe me, it doesn't. it will understandably turn many shoppers away. Compounding this, of course, Toyota has alienated a lot of its fan base by simply cloning the BMW. So you've got a car that has limited mass market appeal and has hamstrung its own enthusiast appeal. My fear is that not many of these cars are going to sell as a result. And that is a crying shame. Yes, it's got some silliness. You know, all those little vents on the outside are fake. And yeah, visibility kind of really sucks. On the other hand, I suspect that the limited number of these that are going to be out there will turn them into something of a collectible later on, particularly as what is likely to be one of the last premium non-hybrid sports cars. This thing puts out some serious power for its weight and wheelbase. You will feel the traction control nipping it just to keep it in line here and there. This thing wants to go, and with its awkwardness in town, it seems the place you really want to take it is to the track. When you pull it out on track, the Supra really does start to come alive. Oh, we're swirling. 130, 50, 70, 190, braking into 1. As of 2021, the Supra has hollow strut braces up front. Between that and the 50-50 weight balance, this thing feels fabulous here. We've seen the ZF 8-speed in Astons, Dodges, Jaguars, BMWs, it's in everything. And for good reason, it's a good trans, and here it does well. Programming is excellent. Even just leaving it in automatic mode here, it shifts at all the right moments. It feels weird to leave it to do its own thing, but I can't argue with the brilliance of this technology. The big thing to note here is the rear drive setup versus that M240i's X-Drive. This thing will break the tail out in the way that all-wheel drive BMW doesn't want to. And that means that if you get a little too happy on the throttle through a corner, you are going to feel that traction control jerk and bring you back under control. It does a great job of it, and I appreciate it here. With 382 horsepower and 368 pound-feet of torque, same as in the BMW, this thing goes, and it feels great doing it. Apart from all the other things that are great about this being a BMW, I appreciate the sound and the experience. This thing's fabulous. It must be said that being a BMW, this steers like a BMW. And that's not necessarily great. Apart from little bits of vibration, the steering is BMW numb. It's incredibly accurate and precise, more than I can make use of. But I must say, it doesn't thrill in the way that the power and the chassis dynamics do. While the Supra does have a very nice head-up display, I do wish that it provided me a little more information. It shows my speed and this 40km/h speed limit on the track, but it doesn't give me a tachometer, which is really the big thing that I'd want to see up there. When you're on track, it's not so important what speed you're doing as that it feels appropriate and proportionate to the curve you're approaching. With that in mind, the great potential of the head-up display feels kind of squandered here. All this power channeled through the rear wheels will get this thing squirrely. That said, front and rear tires on this are both a full 3 centimeters wider than what you get on the M240i. That gets you better contact patches for cornering and stability. However, being rear drive, that all-wheel drive BMW will actually accelerate a little faster with the same specs. Now, I'm not going to get too crazy here because I'm still learning my limits as a driver and I don't want to overdo it. I feel very safe and secure in the Supra at speed. And I must note, I appreciate Toyota actually letting me bring it out here unsupervised. I'd also like to thank our friend Lucas Scarfone, who we featured on Driving.ca, and who's actually hosting and invited me to this event. Track time is rare and precious. It's always appreciated. For my full review, be sure to check us out online at Driving.ca and follow our socials on Instagram and Twitter.